It's your boy Salvaje from the Salvaje Cartel. I'm back at it again with another Fortnite Save the World tips video. Here are 25 soldier tips, and if you don't want to watch this 25 soldier tips video because it's too long, you can check out my 3 key essential tips for the soldier. That video is going to be linked in the description below. I never plug in my stuff that much, so I'm going to use this video as an opportunity to do so. My support a creator code, it's Salvaje. Please use it, guys. It helps me out a lot. When you complete a V-Buck mission using my creator code, it also helps me out a ton. So again, man, if you guys could rock it, you know, just for a single day and then buy something with it on the shop and then switch to your creators, your other creators code, yeah, go ahead and do it. But again, like if you guys can use my creator code, get things with it, do V-Buck missions with it, that helps me out a ton. So now that I got that out of the way, let's get started with the video. I just want to point out this is part of my 100 hero tips video. So instead of going from 1 to 25, I'm going to be going from 76 to 100, but again, it's a total of 25 tips. So tip number 1, or tip 76, make sure that you're using soldiers at the medium ranges, specifically also around the objective, right? At the end game levels of play, you don't really want to camp the enemy spawn because a lot of husks are going to overwhelm you. Also, soldiers work best from a range because of their passive abilities and abilities, which we're going to talk about later. So long story short, you're going to best maximize a soldier if you're fighting within a long range or medium range, okay? For the most part, I usually like to patrol around the objective of a soldier, and on some loadouts, I actually like to sit above the objective, get a nice high ground from the husk, and be able to take them out one by one. So in my opinion, that's the best way to maximize a soldier. And if you could take one tip away from this video, make sure that is that one right there. Tip 77, don't use going commando or lefty and righty if you're overwhelmed by husks, because you can't heal while using those abilities. Tip number 78, don't throw grenades inside trap tunnels if there's a lot of propane husk, or if there have been propane husks that have walked into that trap tunnel. For the most part, I don't really risk it much, and I never throw grenades inside trap tunnels unless I built the trap tunnel myself and unless I know that I am ready to build another trap tunnel if my trap tunnel gets destroyed. But yeah, for the most part, sometimes at the beginner levels of play, I see propanes coming in and people are throwing grenades inside trap tunnels and therefore blowing up tunnels. Do not do that. That is a bad idea. Tip number 79, you can use grenades to actually break shields. So the shielder husks are going to be inside of those shields, so the best way to destroy them with your grenades is to get high ground and then throw the grenade from the high ground into the top part of the shield. But if you don't destroy the shielder husk that way, that leads me of course to tip number 80. Let's talk about team perks, right? So one of the best team perks for the soldiers in Save the World at the moment, there's a lot of good team perks for soldiers, but one of the best ones is the Keep Out team perk, which leaves an energized energy field that does consistent AoE or area of effect damage on the ground after your grenade explodes. So you can actually use the Keep Out ability and the grenade technique to destroy shielder husk in synchronicity. So long story short, if you see a shielder husk coming towards you, you just throw grenades, 2 grenades at the shield, and then the energized energy field is going to be doing area of effect damage to that shielder husk, and the shielder husk is going to get eliminated. That's something that I like to do a lot at the end game levels of play, because at the end game levels of play, there's a lot of shielder husk around. And if you're a little bit confused, I'm pretty sure the gameplay example gave you guys a general idea of what I was talking about. Tip number 81, let's talk about a really good soldier for the support slot. The Boy Tactical Assault Sledgehammer is essential. He will be becoming part of the base game on Save the World Season 10 if expansion sets keep working as they are supposed to. Tip number 82, when I'm not using the Keep Out ability, when I have another team perk and I have a soldier that has grenades, for the most part, I don't like to throw one grenade at a time, right? I'm going to be saving my grenades if there's a lot of husk around me that are really overwhelmed. So if there's a lot of husk around me, I'm going to be throwing 3 grenades at a time, because when 3 grenades explode, of course, very close to each other, you're going to be able to do some nice AoE damage. So try to use grenades when, you know, like when you're going to throw a lot of them instead of just one, because grenades without the Keep Out ability aren't really super effective unless you're rocking the Void Vaughn in your support slots. Tip number 83, make sure that you're using Shockwave when you're surrounded by a lot of enemies. Don't use Shockwave just on one enemy because that's kind of a bad idea. For the most part, I usually like to use Shockwave if Husk are actually hitting the objective a lot, because sometimes Shockwave also stuns Husk a little bit, which gives me a really good chance to finish them off. Tip number 84, let's say that you fall from really high in the sky. Well, if you use Shockwave when you're really close to the ground, you can negate all the fall damage. Tip number 85, the lefty and righty ability as well as the going commando ability is extremely effective for destroying structures such as trees or buildings, etc, etc. So make sure that you're using those abilities if there's a lot of buildings around you, or if there's just a lot of useless things around you. Tip number 86, the war cry ability actually goes through walls, so you don't really need to be next to your teammates to actually activate it. If your teammate is next to the objective, or you know, across like a 2-tile range, the war cry ability will go through walls and it will affect your teammate, okay? Tip number 87, so I wasn't going to put this tip in here because the game points it out, but one of the things that I like to do for my guides, here's a little secret, I like to look up on Google, I like to look up what are the most asked questions about Save the World, and I take a look at the autofill results and I see what people are asking. So of course I can, you know, put it on one of my guides video and stuff. But yeah, long story short, a lot of people don't know what Warcry does. So long story short, tip number 87, Warcry is going to be increasing your weapon damage overall, your sword swing speed, and it's also going to be increasing your fire rate. It is a really good perk, probably the best ability that the soldier has at the end game levels of play, since Warcry tends to be really effective when you're fighting those end game level mini bosses. Tip number 88, if you are playing a soldier and you're maining a soldier, make sure that you're leveling up your offense. You're prioritizing leveling up your offense in your skill tree so that of course you can get that extra ranged weapon damage. Do keep in mind, guys, you are going to be fighting at the medium ranges around the objective, and for the most part a lot of the husks aren't going to get back at you, which means that you can have your offense like 40 levels above your fortitude and resistance, because again, you're not really going to be taking that much damage unless you're somebody that just likes to play a lot of offensive modes like destroy the encampments. I guess you could say have your offense 20 to 30 levels above your fortitude, resistance, and tech. I do recommend though that you level up tech just a little bit, but for the most part you do want to focus on offense if you are a soldier only player. Tip number 89, let's talk about gadgets. The banner is a really good gadget for the soldier. Again, you're going to be around the objective, you're going to be sort of patrolling a specific area at a medium range, so the banner helps out a lot. It helps you heal the objective if it's in trouble, and for the most part you are also giving your teammates a spawning point. Tip number 90, the slow field gadget is also really good, but not a lot of people use it correctly. Ideally, if you're being overwhelmed in the objective, you want to throw down the slow field gadget, and then what you want to do is you want to go for a lot of headshots so that you can destroy the husk. You're going to be able to get headshots really easily because, of course, you know, the husk are like really slowed down, so yeah. Anyways, tip number 91, if you are going to throw one grenade, I recommend that you follow it up with a shockwave. That's what I like to do. Grenade and shockwave combination is extremely deadly, and I absolutely recommend that you guys go for it if you need a lot of burst damage, I guess you could say. Tip number 92, the minigun is amazing at the medium ranges. Make sure that you're mostly pulling out a minigun at the medium ranges. Keep in mind you can't also build when you're using the minigun. Tip number 93, the minigun is also extremely good with bosses. If you're ever fighting a mini boss that has the ricochet ability, the ability that makes it so that all of the bullets that you hit the boss with bounce back to you, you can just whip out a minigun and you're going to be able to melt them from 0 to 100 real quick. Tip number 94, let's talk about lefty and righty. For the most part, you most likely want to use it at the medium to close ranges. And if you are going to be using a lefty and righty hero, I recommend that you run support for the lefty and righty hero. Maybe have double agent Evelyn or Raven on your support slot, because lefty and righty isn't a super top tier ability. At least I prefer the minigun more than lefty and righty. Tip number 95, when you're playing a soldier, guys, make sure that you're focusing on a single target. Like, don't shoot one husk and then move on forward to the other husk before you finish them off. The reason for that is because soldiers have a passive ability called Suppressive Fire. And basically what this means is that if you focus on a single target, you're going to be getting up to 15% extra damage, because again, you're only focusing on one target. So don't start shooting a smasher and then halfway through the smasher just switch onto another target. No, Focus on one target at a time so that you can maximize your soldier as much as possible. Tip number 96, every 3 kills that you get with a soldier, you get 10% extra damage, and that's gonna last for an extra 7 seconds, but every time that you get a kill, okay, that sort of cooldown is going to be refreshed, okay? So tip number 97, if you are running loadouts that has the war cry ability, if you're running a hero that has the war cry ability, definitely make sure that you're running a weapon with a high magazine, like that when you activate war cry and you have that increased fire rate, you can dish out massive amounts of damage. Tip number 98, refrigerator husks are extremely annoying, but if you have the Shockwave ability, you can actually play around them very, very well. You want to get a little bit close to the refrigerator husk, and then you want to jump and then use the Shockwave ability, and this is basically going to go over them and sort of stun them down, and then you can finish them off really, really quickly. That's also another use that I like to sort of keep in mind when I have the Shockwave ability. Tip number 99, another really good soldier to have in the support slot, if you don't want to run the keep out ability, is to have the boy Demolitioner Jonesy. He has the cluster bombs ability for your grenade, and that can be very helpful, specifically if you're being crowded by a lot of husks. Tip number 100, make sure that when you're building a loadout for your soldier, you're sort of catering to its kit. So if I have a soldier that has the grenade ability as well as the Shockwave ability, I know Shockwave is actually a really good ability, so I'm going to be putting in a couple of support heroes that are going to be helping out that Shockwave ability as well as the grenade ability. Like, you don't really need to focus only on one ability for the soldier, because a lot of the soldier abilities actually offer a lot of utility. The case is completely different, however, with Outlanders, for example. Like, for some Outlanders, you just want to max out their teddies so that they do as much damage as possible. But again, with soldiers, it's a little bit different, right? You want to make sure that you're catering towards a soldier loadout. Like I said on a previous tip, if you're using a soldier with Warcry, have high magazine weapons. If you're using a shotgun soldier, make sure that your loadout sort of specializes on Shockwave, getting more shotgun damage, sort of having survivability, or maybe have a survivalist perk. You always want to make sure that you're maximizing your soldier and that your soldier loadout also has a bit of flexibility, because that's what soldiers are all about in Fortnite Save the World, right? They're all about that variety. They're all about, multiple scenario type readiness, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my 25 soldier tips video. If y'all enjoyed it, feel free to drop it a like, feel free to subscribe to join the Salvaje Cartel, feel free to use my creator code. I would really appreciate that, homies, and I'll be seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.